Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Moore's October Rants. Today's episode is titled, I Was Busy, 2024 Updated Version. Last summer, I made one of my first videos for this channel called I Was Busy, where I talked about how people love using the excuse that they're too busy when, in reality, they just don't want to engage. It's an easy way to avoid a conversation, or to dodge spending time with someone without actually admitting that they've lost interest. At that time, I was frustrated with how often people threw that excuse at me. And now, a year later, I'm still frustrated. But I also want to take a moment to reflect on whether my opinions on this have evolved. Honestly, there's probably not much more to say, but I do want to revisit it, compare it with my old rant, and see if I've shifted in how I handle these situations. I can't remember exactly what I said in that first video because, let's be real, after you make a bunch of these rants, things start blending together. But I know this is still a topic that bothers me, probably even more now than it did back then. So, let's dive into it. When someone says, I was busy, it can be a valid excuse. Let's not pretend like life doesn't get hectic sometimes. We've all had days where we're legitimately swamped with work, personal stuff, errands, or other responsibilities. But, and this is a big but, you've got to be able to tell when someone's genuinely busy versus when they're just feeding you a line. This skill, my friends, is crucial because if you don't learn how to differentiate between the two, you might end up pushing away someone who's actually dealing with a lot. Or worse, you might keep holding on to someone who's making it crystal clear they don't care about you, but they're just too cowardly to say it outright. Here's the thing about genuinely busy people. When they're in the middle of things, they aren't glued to their phones. They're not browsing TikTok every 5 minutes, updating their Instagram stories, or sending Snapchats about their lunch. When someone's really working, they put their phone down and focus. But when someone's busy, and you notice that they're constantly online, posting stories and liking posts, yet somehow they can't take 2 seconds to respond to your text or message, well, let's be real. That's not being busy. That's someone who's just not interested but is too scared to be upfront about it. In my experience, this excuse comes up a lot more with women, although I'm sure men pull the same stunt. Women, for whatever reason, might be afraid to flat out reject someone. Maybe they don't want the confrontation, maybe they don't want to hurt feelings, or maybe they're just trying to avoid the drama. Instead of being honest, they'll say they're busy, hoping you get the hint, and go away on your own. It's frustrating because at the end of the day, what they're really doing is making you play a game. And this game is about guessing. Guessing how they feel, guessing if they're truly busy, guessing whether they care or not. It's all smoke and mirrors. Now, I'm not saying this is always the case. There are times when people have crazy schedules, and they might genuinely struggle to find time to reply to a message. But the key here is how often it happens. If someone says they're busy every now and then, no big deal. We all have days where we can't find a minute to breathe. But if it's every time you reach out, every single conversation, and they're always too busy to even shoot back a quick, hey, how are you? That's a red flag. It takes, 10 seconds? It's not hard to find a moment to send a quick text unless, of course, you just don't want to. I saw this TikTok once that really hit home for me. A woman was talking about how, if you truly care about someone, it doesn't matter how busy you are. You find the time to send a message. You can be making breakfast and still manage to send a quick hello text. You can be on your way to a meeting and still check in with someone you care about. She said something that really stuck with me. It's the little things that count. And that's absolutely true. When people care about you, they make an effort even when they're busy. If they're not making that effort, then they're probably not as invested as you think they are. One of the things that still drives me crazy, just like it did last year, is how people react when you confront them about it. When you finally call them out and say, hey, I don't think you're actually that busy, they act like you're the one who's lost it. They'll get defensive, tell you you're overreacting, or even accuse you of being paranoid. I am busy, they'll insist, even though you know, deep down, they're lying. At that point, it's like banging your head against a wall. You're not going to get anywhere, because they're not going to admit that they're just not interested. It's a dead-end situation, and honestly, the best thing you can do is cut your losses and move on. I've been in those situations before. calling someone out for their toxic behavior, for stringing me along, and wasting my time. It's exhausting, and ultimately it's not worth it. If someone's going to lie to you about something as basic as whether or not they're busy, they're probably lying about other things too. It's a pattern of dishonesty, and it's a sign that this is someone you don't want in your life. Sure, it sucks to let people go, but you've got to think about what's better in the long run. Holding on to someone who's clearly not interested, or freeing yourself from that nonsense and finding someone who is. As I've gotten older, I've realized I'm just not afraid to lose people anymore. I'm not afraid to be alone if it means cutting out people who aren't real with me. I'll call it out when I see it. If someone's not being honest with me, if they're trying to play games, I'll confront them. I would rather have no one in my life than be surrounded by liars and manipulators. And that's what it is, manipulation. When people lie to you like this, they're showing you a deep level of disrespect. Lying about being busy might seem small, but it's a red flag. If they're willing to lie about something like that, what else are they lying about? Where else are they cutting corners in the relationship? It's just not worth it to stay in situations like that. And honestly, when you're with people who genuinely care about you, who genuinely want to talk to you, you don't have to wonder. You don't have to guess. It's obvious. You can feel it. The effort is there, the respect is there, and there's no need to play these games. That's the difference between real connections and these shallow, half-hearted ones. And it's something that becomes more and more clear as you go through life. So now, when someone tries to pull that "I'm busy" excuse for the 100th time, I don't even bother. I'm done arguing about it. I'm focused on progress. I'm focused on moving forward with my life. And I suggest you do the same. Don't waste your time arguing with someone who's denying what you both already know deep down. Anyway, that's the updated version of I Was Busy. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of Moore's October Rants. As always, take care, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.